Welcome to the Do Good X podcast, a sanctuary from the entrepreneur grind. Hosts Kimberly Danielle and Stephen Lewis, advocates for impactful entrepreneurship, guide you on the path where purpose meets business. Join us to slow down, reconnect, and explore the challenges of under-resourced entrepreneurs, uncovering the unique journey of building businesses that make a difference. Now, your host.
Welcome to the Do Good X podcast. My name is Kimberly Danielle, and I am a community builder, coach, and a communication strategist who comes from generations of faith-driven leaders and entrepreneurs who believe that our purpose should drive us all to contribute to the common good. And as always, I'm here with my co-host for this exciting episode today. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Kimberly. It's good to see you. As you know, I'm a catalyst for positive change in communities and businesses. And for over 2 decades, I've inspired leaders and entrepreneurs to live and work on purpose with intention, faith, and a commitment to their well-being. In today's episode, we are going to chat about AI and how entrepreneurs, especially social entrepreneurs, can make an intentional decision around AI use in your business. So AI is everywhere. You can promise efficiency, scale, transformation, but we want to explore how we can use it responsibly and ethically in ways that benefit your business, but also make a positive and a more meaningful impact. So while we begin this conversation in the last couple of episodes, today we get to dive more deeply into it with an expert from the field. And so I'm excited for this conversation. I want to introduce you to Keyona Meeks. She is an AI strategist and systems expert who helps organizations navigate intelligent automation and workforce transformation. Now, as a consultant and a lead of AI strategy at Prism, founder of ReRev, and the general partner at Black Tech Capital, she specializes in translating AI advancements into actionable operational frameworks for business ranging from Silicon Valley startups to West African SMEs. With a venture capital background spanning multiple global ecosystems, Keyona has developed and implemented AI curriculum and integration strategies adopted by accelerators across 2 continents. Her expertise includes designing AI-driven operational optimization programs, building automation systems that enhance rather than replace human capabilities, and creating scalable frameworks that make transformative technology accessible to organizations of all sizes. Keyona's unique perspective, combining Silicon Valley's technological rigor with global resourcefulness, enabling her to help organizations implement AI solutions that are both cutting edge and pragmatically sustainable. Through her work with accelerators, startups, and enterprise teams, she focuses on one mission: democratizing AI literacy and making intelligent automation as accessible as Excel. So with that, I want to thank you, Keyona, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. And apparently I need to put you on retainer. That intro was awesome. And probably better than anything I've written for myself. So if you can just send me the invoice, we'll discuss details after the call.
All right. Well, let's jump in. So what inspired you to begin working in systems and AI strategy?
Yeah, no, that definitely goes back to where I decided to enter the startup industry. So I went to school for international business at the University of California, San Diego. And throughout that international business degree, we're mostly getting a really good context as to like how business has run, how it runs, what's the world order as it relates to like regulating things, how commerce moves on an international stage, all that stuff. And I think during my education, it was something that bothered me a lot. And this is also something that has bothered me throughout like the entirety of my primary and secondary education, is often it tends to stay too high level. Not that we don't dive into different case studies or whatnot, but if after graduating, if you had asked me, like, start a company from scratch using the information that you had learned, I'd be able to write you some essays, but I couldn't start a company from scratch. And so my first big girl job was working for Bronze Valley, which is a nonprofit venture investor based here in Birmingham, Alabama, which is also where I still am. And I was with them for about 2 years, doing a lot of different things that investment associates do. Due diligence, working with the investment committee, working with our board. And during my tenure there were 10 different companies that I supported through diligence, conducting the diligence myself, through the process of getting investments from us and helping the company conduct, I think all in all, around $1 million in equity transactions and investments into different companies that are in their portfolio. And through that experience, I learned a lot. But something that Bronze Valley does is that it focuses on investing in minority-led startups at the early stage throughout the country. So, you know, like, especially being from like nowhere, Louisiana, when that was my first job, I was really excited. I was like, I get to wake up and write checks to Black people. I'm winning, right? But something that I kept noticing that was really bothersome was this gap in entrepreneurship education. And so we would constantly be fielding and talking to Black and other minority entrepreneurs who maybe they had good ideas, but like weren't all the way there with how they were executing or how they understood things or how they were talking to investors. And a piece of advice that I still get to this, or not advice, but feedback that I still get from founders to this day is I really tell them like it is. With an exacting and precise language, and that instinct to get really specific with what's going on is what led me into this consulting work. After I left Bronze Valley, I was just, you know, talking with companies, working with them, and was able to turn that like irritation, that professional irritation that developed while working with Bronze Valley in meeting so many founders who were bright and capable, but just didn't have it all the way there in order to successfully go out and raise or to build revenue generating companies. I was like, this is an education gap. Something that's really has always bothered me is like, so for example, growing up, I was always in like honors and AP classes. And so we always had advanced curriculum. But it really did bother me that like my peers throughout my grade didn't have the same education as me. They didn't have access to the same curriculum, the same standards as me. And because we had, and all schools in America have such a strong focus on grades, that leaves less room for uninhibited exploration, uninhibited learning, because so students aren't incentivized to challenge themselves, because going into an AP class and getting a C is not going to look as good on your GPA if you just take the class, you know, you can pass with flying colors and get that A, right? But the market is not the same. When you're out there and you're building a business, it's not about doing it perfectly. It's about getting it done and iterating, right? And I tell this to founders all the time. I'm like, as a founder, your main mindset should be that of a mad scientist. All you are doing all day long is putting together experiments like, you know, this is our brand positioning right now. That is a hypothesis that we're putting into play. We don't actually know if this is going to connect with our audience. We think it will, but it's not until we put this brand positioning in action and define the metrics that we're going to assess this by that we're going to know if it actually is paying off. And so when I'm working with founders and I'm talking to them one-on-one, I'm able to go really deep and be exacting and being like, okay, what you've got going on over here, that's never going to work. And here's why. Or you're planning out your financial projections based on a 2-year sales cycle and you need money today. How can we diversify your revenue stack so that way you're also bringing in clients or customers that have a much shorter sales cycle, like in the few weeks, a few months. So helping them think strategically at the big level, and then also like guiding them and showing them how that actually looks at the execution level is really important to me. And I think that is where a lot of entrepreneurship education is lacking. Mm-hmm. And there's no good reason for it to be that way. And it's been really exciting to be able to work with accelerators to produce not just content, but full-fledged out curriculum to get those founders to become the kind of founders that can make multiple successful companies over the course of their lifetime, and not just get lucky this one time.
I think your approach of looking at that strategic level and then kind of honing in and putting feet on the ground gets to your take on a problem first, tool second approach. And so can you explain what this means and how entrepreneurs, especially social entrepreneurs, might use this particular mindset?
Yeah, no. This mindset guides like literally everything when I'm interacting with the founder, especially at the early stages. I am an expert. I can definitively say the expert as a word is a word I like cringe and shy away from. But I feel really comfortable being like, when it comes to early stage startups, I am an expert because that's just where my entire career has been so far. So I say that to say maybe there's a more powerful mindset shift that happens past Series A or past Series B. That's none of my business. I don't really talk to them. But when it comes to idea to pre-seed to seed and even up to Series A, that's my domain of expertise. So when I say problem first, tool second, that is absolutely what I mean. It cannot get plainer than that. In that when I'm talking to founders and giving them advice and assessing, okay, where do I take this conversation? What do they need to understand? Or where's a gap in their conception of something that we're talking about? I'm always referencing my definition of a business, which is an entity that solves a problem for a qualified customer in exchange for money. All of those pieces have to be present in order for your business to be successful. And I love working with founders at the idea stage because we can fix a lot of problems that they might be experiencing down the road, especially as it relates to bringing in revenue, if we're really focused on making sure that their business lines up with that definition. Do you have an idea that the market needs? And what proof do you have that the market needs it, right? Great signals of proof at the idea stage are competition. Somebody else is already doing it. And they've been in the game for multiple years or even multiple decades. That's a signal to me that says, at the very least, there's a market appetite for this. And often founders in pursuit of solving a societal problem aren't able to understand it from a market lens. And the thing is, if you want to be effective in solving some of the problems that we have going on today, and we have so many, there's so many problems, then you're going to have to get creative and you're going to have to embrace having a business knowledge and developing out that idea from a market-based perspective. If you want to tackle childhood poverty, or let's maybe have something a little easier, like food, like making sure everyone in your neighborhood is well fed. A business model that is essentially just give food away may or may not work. The thing is, we have food pantries, so we know that there's at least some type of model where you can just give food away. But maybe you want to make sure that you're also employing people and you don't want to be relying on grants. And so you have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what business model, what revenue structure can facilitate the way that I not just want to solve this problem, but how I want to employ people, the kind of jobs I want to create. Like all of those questions have to come into mind when you're building out that solution. It can't just be you have a good heart, you have a pure heart, you have good intentions, because it's always intent versus impact. And to be the entrepreneur that you want to be and to solve the problems that you want to solve, it's going to require new levels of knowledge and new layers of perspective. And that's not a bad thing. That only means that this idea, especially as you continue to put all of your energy and efforts into it, will become something sustainable, something that can live beyond you, and not something that you have to bare knuckle for multiple years before you're able to like eke out a living. There are ways to mitigate business issues if you just have the business model that is grounded. You go into the market and you get evidence that this business model makes sense and that it makes sense for you and what you're building and how you want to do it. I think I've lost sight of the original question, but hopefully that answered it.
No, that's good. I think, as you've been talking and all around business models and problems that you're trying to solve, particularly early stage, which is really important because it helps you build a better solution. You're also an expert in AI and its ethical uses of it. And, AI requires a lot of data and energy. It has environmental and ethical kind of implications. There are ethical blind spots as it's related. So tell us, what are some of the misconceptions that entrepreneurs, particularly early stage entrepreneurs, have around AI?
I think it's really funny, and this is the first time I'm putting these things together, but in many ways, I'm a very Black investor. And so, like, having worked in the VC industry since 2020 and now being general partner at Black Tech Capital, if you're not coming to the table with a viable idea and like a strong distribution strategy, a strong go-to-market strategy, a strong business model, I don't care. Like, I think too often people are building, like, I don't know, for fun or in the dark or whatever, or worse. Like, something that I see a lot in this AI era that we're in right now is people will just like slap a wrapper on top of a Claude API or a ChatGPT API and like, oh, it's like, this is my new idea. And it's like, if this is your small business idea, cool. I'm not about to give you money to go and build this anymore. Are there other investors that will? Yes, but I am not her. I'm a very no-nonsense investor. I'm investing in moonshots, things that are solving fundamental problems in our global supply chains, from chemicals to energy to battery storage, all throughout like the climate ecosystem. I am also not like the kind of investor that is going to, like, I don't want to say tolerate, but have a strong enthusiasm for consumer apps that aren't solving anybody's problem. I think I've said this on another podcast before, like, chill with making consumer apps. Please chill with making consumer apps. I think people think apps are like very sexy, and now with AI, it's very easy to make one. And don't get me wrong, apps are kind of sexy. And AI does make it easy to build one. But if you want to build a great one that will last, and one that's not just a side project, it still has to be solving a fundamental problem. So I think that's a misconception I'm seeing in this AI hype bubble that we're in right now. Is just like anything that has like a .ai on it getting funded. Often, sometimes I think like ridiculously so. Because when you're building a business, it's not just about what you're capable of building, right? Whether you're technical or you're working with a technical team, it's not about literally what can I think of, what can I build? It's about who can I serve with this? Period. Mm-hmm. Whether your business is, you're a social entrepreneur or you're not, your business has to be serving other people. There's I want to say it's a Scott Galloway quote. I could be wrong, but I believe it, and it goes something like this, like, your success lies entirely in the agency of others. And there's nothing truer than that. There's nothing truer than that statement. And so I say that to say, from the beginning, you have to be including the people that you want to serve in how you actually develop out those things. So yeah, the gung-ho misconception I see a lot is like, oh, I can just like whip this up with AI. And like, sure, you can, but don't make the mistake of thinking that that's the end of the journey or that's enough, because it's not enough. It low-key wasn't enough before AI just to build something, and it's not enough now, especially now. That said, the other like side of that coin that I'm seeing a lot is that AI is beyond me. I think this happens particularly in our communities where people are like, oh, that's heady, that's way above me. And I guess this is one of my like hot takes is that I think that our relationship with consumer technology, so our personal devices, our laptops, our cell phones, the apps that we use, the software that we use on a daily basis, like Google Suite or softwares that we use like QuickBooks or things like that, kind of put people in this mindset where they think that these things are beyond them. Because in order to access the functions that those pieces of technology provide, we have to exchange that, for money. And we're given this like relatively complex piece of technology, whether it's software or hardware, and we're just taught how to use it. And so once people learn how to use it, many people think that that's kind of the end all be all of their tech journey. And something I have been pushing more for, both with myself and with my friends, is what does it look like to challenge that idea, to say that this technology isn't beyond us, that with a few hours of studying a week, I can actually like have a very competent understanding of how this works. And another thing, I think people get caught up in this trap a lot, not just with AI, is trying to understand how it works, like literally to the nuts and bolts, and thinking if I don't understand the literal nuts and bolts, like if I can't code a model from scratch, I can't do anything, right? Like as if that's the goal of this learning journey. And I think and to be fair, I absolutely think that's a symptom of how our public school system is set up, being very grade focused. So there's this pressure to have a complete knowledge in order to move. But something that being an entrepreneur and being a venture capitalist has taught me is that momentum beats perfection or even excellence every time. Just keep moving. And something that I think a lot of people that have not played around technology before miss is that this is a very project-based learning process. And you have to get messy. You have to play it. You have to write code that fails. And that's a part of the learning journey, not a signal that this is beyond you. In fact, it's a signal that you're doing the right thing, because you're going to have to fail multiple times in order to get a working understanding of this technology, whether we're talking about AI specifically, or we're talking about LLMs and you want to build your own LLM, or we're talking about building an app with AI, whatever in that journey is your goal. Be prepared for it to be messy. Be prepared for you to only have a halfway knowledge, because it's only a matter of time. It's time over effort that you will have that complete knowledge, right? And it may be years down the road. Don't push yourself to have this complete omniscient understanding before you get your hands dirty with this technology. If you have another question on ethics, we can transition into that part.
Well, I just think, given these misconceptions, what can entrepreneurs do to think about environmental sustainability as they adopt and code and work with AI?
I'll definitely say there's been, of course, a larger conversation about climate and sustainability going on since basically the 70s. And we've reached an inflection point in most recent years where it's quite literally do or die. And when I say I'm referring to humanity as a collective here. And our very slow progress on climate. And most of it has been about policy and money allocation, not about technology. The technology is there, but implementation is a factor of money. And a factor of policy and the priorities of those that we elect to represent us, and the way that we do or do not push them on things. So that's first and foremost. That's where the bulk, the 80% of the ability for our societies to progress towards a climate future that doesn't have literally millions of people having to move around the globe from displacement, or millions of people dying every year from an increase in fungal diseases and heat strokes and all the many other ways that climate change will continue to disrupt and upset our environmental ecosystems. When it comes to your personal AI use, especially given where we are in this part of the world, I know that there are so many conversations right now about how terrible data centers are for our environment. And that's true. They are terrible for our environment. But also there are countries especially within Europe and particularly the Nordic countries and China, where they're placing data centers with more care, greater regulation, and more of a commitment to mitigating against environmental and human harm. The way that currently, in the last year, the U.S. has been investing in and allowing data centers to just pop up all over these places that are rural, places where the community is underdeveloped economically or historically disadvantaged and filled with minorities. It's wrong the way things are happening now. That doesn't mean that there's not a path forward where we can do that smarter. And it also doesn't mean that you as an individual have no agency and that you just have to give up use of that technology in order to live ethically. Now, when it comes to climate impact, if you want to live ethically, stop eating beef. Stop eating beef and take the bus more. That's 1 and 2. That'll do more than any ChatGPT prompt that you do or do not send. Do that first. I'm not playing. Those are huge impacts on our environment and the resources that those things use. When it comes to your personal use, one, you can use smaller models. So once these models are trained, and if you just commit, and maybe this is a part of your own personal AI journey that you map out for yourself, if you want to commit to using smaller models that are able to achieve the same results on like 80% of tasks, MIT just came out with a study not too long ago, I think less than a month or two ago, about this. Go read up on that. And you don't really have to read it because here's the takeaway. You can use smaller models to get the same impact that you would if you were using ChatGPT 5 or even Claude Sonnet 4.5. So the same, you don't need to be using the models that have, millions or billions of dollars thrown into developing them. You can use the models that have already been made and still do exactly what you're already using AI for or what you would be using AI for with a significantly smaller environmental impact. You can, and this obviously is not a primary way to do it, but a secondary way to do it is by purchasing carbon offsets and being like, okay, if this is my AI use and this is how I want to use it, here's a way that I can mitigate this, or less mitigate for it, more make up for it. And tokens aren't perfect, but it is an option. And if you really want to use this technology, which I encourage you to do, find a way to go to Hugging Face, download a local model onto your personal device, and then you can use that AI offline. And maybe you limit your use of ChatGPT or Claude or whatever browser-based AI that it requires internet access to when you need to do deep internet research or something along those lines. But the thing is like, I want people to be less concerned with their individual impact when it comes to like prompting and using these things, and more concerned about using their power as citizens to advocate for better regulation when it comes to data centers and where those are going. That's going to have a greater impact. Not that your individual impact is meaningless. I'm not saying that at all, because it all adds up. But what I am saying is this technology, the way I phrased it before, I think the juice is worth the squeeze. Now, we can be squeezing it smarter. Other countries are, other groups are. But I'm really loath to have this really important piece of technology move past our communities, especially when we need it so much. Being able to, the amount of like climate solutions that I've seen come out since AI came onto the market the way it did in 2022. And even before that, when it was more of an academic thing, things that were, and when AI was essentially just a term that was at universities and in certain departments and not a consumer democratized phenomenon. AI really enables scientists to move faster and to solve problems that we would have taken literally hundreds of years to solve otherwise. A great example is how bacterial resistance to antibiotics has been a concern since antibiotics were invented. And that concern has only gotten more serious as time went on. But this year, I think this literally happened like a couple weeks ago, scientists were able to use AI to create so many different generations of the different solutions or different, and I'm not a biochemist, okay? So this is me butchering the hell out of this. But they were able to create lots and lots and lots of, I believe it was like protein folds, to see which ones made the most sense, or like which ones, I'm not a scientist. I'm so sorry. There's some chemistry student or some biology student listening to this going, what is she talking about? Oof. But my point is they were able to use AI in their processes to complete what would have taken literally 100 years of like human-led work. And those kinds of discoveries, those kind of applications are really, really important. And right now we live in the most complex environment that any human has ever lived in. No matter if you're living in a first world country or a third world country, you live in the West or the East, if you're living in America or you're living in Africa, we live in some very complex times. We're having to understand climate change, high youth unemployment rates, high unemployment rates in general, a poor job market, this new piece of technology that's on the market that's causing disruptions. It's all happening, and it's all happening at once. And we only had our public school education, and some of us got a college degree, but that degree didn't prepare us for this. It didn't prepare an individual how to navigate this. And I feel so heavily for low-income families who are having to figure all of this out in real time. Things have progressed very quickly. Things have changed very quickly. And being able to lean on this new technology that we have that's been democratized at the consumer level and is free if you have access to the internet in order to make better life decisions, I'm not going to fault people for using that. I'm not going to punish them or there are other ways to reduce your climate impact that don't require you to give up on this essential piece of technology, that don't require you to leave that behind while you continue to struggle. If you're using AI to figure out how you're going to prioritize your bills, or you're using AI to understand your tenant rights because your landlord has been acting up, if you're using AI to help you plan groceries because you got 4 kids and your brain is at capacity at all times, do it, please. This is not, I don't want you to be so caught up in the environmental impact, which should be at the greatest concern and has the greatest impact of concern at the policy level in your daily life. I want you to learn and use this technology to do what you have to do. And as you do so, you can do so more mindfully. You can change the models that you're using. You can do those things, but don't put the cart before the horse. Use it, get comfortable with it, and don't feel guilty about it. Maybe that's I feel like that's probably a controversial take.
So, Keyona, I just want to ask you briefly, as a way of resources for those who are tuning in, what are 1 or 2 ways that founders can really tap into what's most relevant, and what are some practical tools and for their business as it relates to AI, because it's ever evolving, ever changing. So what are 1 or 2 quick resources that we might be able to offer those who are tuning in?
Problem first, tool second, and project-based learning. If you're a founder and you already have an idea that you want to build, start by having stream of consciousness conversation. So the first tool I'm going to recommend, it's called speech notes. So you can use Otter, you can use speech notes, you can use the a voice recording tech that comes with your phone. Use whatever you want to use. But I'm very anti-prompt engineering. And when I teach workshops on these things, one of the main things I do as a facilitator is I'm just shaking people to stop prompting and just talk. So having a tech of your choice, and many are free, by the way, there's several free options, and just having a stream of conscious verbal vomit about the project that you're building at the start of the journey and through the journey as you're coming into problems, as you're going, okay, this is a resource constraint we're facing. Talk to AI about that, right? Again, you're the subject matter expert, and it's your discernment that's going to make this company that live or die. This is just an advisor giving you advice that you can take or leave. But being able to get into the habit of talking instead of trying to prompt means that you can move faster. And you'll learn how to use this technology better if you're not trying to use it and you can just flow. So that's going to be number 1, because that also comes with how you use it and a process improvement. And when it comes to organizations, I'm going to say Notion or Google Docs. And it's Notion and Google Docs. And I'm saying that because if you're going to have a company that uses AI to improve your operations, or you want to add automations to what you're doing, regardless, you need to be a company that has a strong culture of documentation. You can't have an AI first company if your onboarding docs are scattered or don't barely exist. It's just what Tim can remember when the new guy gets here. that's not going to cut it. If you want to have an AI first organization, you have to first have an organization that has a strong knowledge management and document culture. So yeah, those are the two things I'm going to recommend. Some type of knowledge management system. I'm obsessed with Notion, and a voice recorder that allows you to have more stream of consciousness prompts instead of like formal prompts, and then literally just copy and paste that bad boy into your LLM of choice, whether that's DeepSeek, Claude, or Chat, or whatever. Stop trying to like format or like use proper sentences or like spell things correctly. You're just trying to get the conversation moving. And it's really good at being able to pull out the actual elements of your conversation, summarize it, and then all of a sudden, instead of this like spaghetti in your head, now you give it that spaghetti, and it's able to very neatly and methodically put out those thoughts in a way that you can revisit them and actually build on those later.
So we are going to just ask you a few questions, or maybe 2 or 3 questions, or give you prompts in our off the cuff segment. These are just first thing that comes to mind. And for those of you tuning in, these are questions and prompts we have not given Keyona. And so we just want you to just say what comes up for you when we ask you these questions or provide you with these prompts. So I'll get us started. How has your faith shaped the way that you lead or build your business?
Impact versus intention. I think growing up, I saw a lot of people absolve themselves of their impact because they had good intentions in the church. And the biggest lesson I took away is that in order to show up, especially as the adult that I want to show up as, I have to be really conscious and understanding of what the actual impact of my actions are. And I think something that really exemplifies that is the turn the other cheek notion. In context, at the time of Jesus's life, to turn the other cheek meant after your master, like say you're a slave, God forbid, you're a slave, and your master slaps you. I believe it's if the turn the other cheek is a prompt for said person to then have to slap you with the other side of their hand, and to I believe to slap with an open palm is to signal someone to be a peer. So it wasn't just, Jesus was not saying, roll over and let them do whatever they want to you. Jesus was saying with that, understand the situation and find unconventional ways to fight against oppressive forces, right? And for me, that looks like being really conscious of how I'm developing out my uses of this technology. And how I communicate about it.
Let me ask you this. How much of your success do you attribute to your faith versus your own grit, will, or hustle?
It's all the above. 30, 30, 30. 33, 33, 33, 0.3333, whatever. So I say that because if you've been on the entrepreneurship journey for more than a year, I think you know how serious, how spiritually serious it is. It's one of the most spiritually transformative experiences that you could ever embark on, simply because it requires a lot of faith. When you don't know if that client is going to come through, or really, because as a business owner, you don't know what you're doing. You won't know what you're doing until year 10. And so those beginning years, it reminds me a lot of, I think it's the book Where the Red Fern Grows. I could be wrong, but it's one of those books from elementary school. And this really stuck with me in how I experienced my faith, in that the main character, he asked God for the strength, and and in exchange for the strength, he would keep going. And so I think about it like that. Like my mouth, my hands, my feet, they continue to move. And I ask for the faith to keep going, the strength to keep going. So it's all of the above for me.
Complete this sentence. Because of my entrepreneurial endeavors, businesses or communities will be or are more able to blank.
Move with their intended purpose. It's easy, I think, to get lost in your way as a business owner because you're just trying to bring in revenue. But when you can get really focused about who you're serving, and then have the systems to back that up, you get to be more of who you are and shine in the market and in a way that is unique. and that serves the populations that you want to impact, and does it well. It does it with excellence. I think that hopefully that it was a sufficient sales pitch as we close out.
Well, Keyona, with that, we'll have to leave it there and just say thank you for all your good work that you're doing in the world, and for the energy and the passion that you bring to the work of AI and its intersection with the larger environment, and what you're trying to do for your community as a investor and an educator in this important technology that we're all trying to get our heads around. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Keyona. We really appreciate you and your work. And for those of you tuning in, please do join us in the next episode as well. And until then, be well and do good.
Thank you for listening to the Do Good X podcast. To continue the conversation or access our resources, visit www.dogoodx.org. Join us again for conversations that will nourish your soul, ignite your dreams, and empower you to build an impactful business, one intentional step at a time. Until then, keep striving, thriving, and doing good.